Go outside right now. I want you to leave the house and walk into your garden. Find the nearest garden pot, maybe one that's been sitting untouched for a season. Look for the oldest stone in your yard, or perhaps a piece of weathered wood that has claimed a corner of your garden for months. Now, lift it. There, in the cool, damp darkness, you will almost certainly find them. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of them. Small, gray, armored creatures, moving in every direction at once. And if you watch closely, the moment the light hits them, some will curl instantly into perfect, seamless spheres. Your first instinct, if you are like most people, is to put the pot back down quickly, or perhaps reach for something to get rid of them. To the untrained eye, they look like a problem. They look like a sign of neglect, a symptom of rot, or something that simply does not belong in a healthy, curated garden. But here is what I need you to understand before you do anything else. What you are looking at is not a pest. It is not a sign that something is going wrong. In reality, you are looking at one of the hardest working, most chemically sophisticated, and most profoundly misunderstood creatures in your entire outdoor space. And the day you stop trying to eliminate them is the day your garden becomes measurably healthier. Today, we are going to talk about the roly-poly, known scientifically as Armadillidium vulgare, and more formally as the Pillbug. But we aren't just talking about what they look like or the instinctive fear response they trigger in us. We are talking about what they actually are, what they actually do, and why the truth about them is so strange and so useful that once you hear it, you'll want to tell everyone you know. Let's start with a fact that changes everything. The roly-poly is not an insect. I want you to pause and really let that sink in. Read that again. It is not an insect. It has no biological relationship to beetles, ants, or any of the other creatures we typically associate with garden soil. The pillbug is a crustacean. It belongs to the order Isopoda, the same biological order as shrimp, crabs, lobsters, and barnacles. In the most literal taxonomic sense, this is a land-dwelling crustacean. It is a relative of the creatures you order at a seafood restaurant, an animal that evolved over millions of years to leave the ocean entirely and make its home in the dark, moist soil beneath your garden pots. I remember the first time I encountered this in a research paper. I actually had to stop and reread the sentence. A crustacean in my garden? The same family as a lobster on a dinner plate, living right next to my tomatoes. It is the kind of fact that feels wrong until you look at the animal again. Really look at it. And suddenly, the segmented armor, the multiple pairs of legs, the specific way it moves, it all makes a completely different kind of sense. This single realization, crustacean, not insect, is the key to understanding everything remarkable about how they function. Because crustaceans evolved in water, their entire biology was built for aquatic environments. When the ancestors of the pillbug made the transition to land, a process that took tens of millions of years and required extraordinary physiological adaptations, they didn't leave everything behind. They carried certain aquatic biological tools with them, tools that, in a soil environment, became something no other land creature possesses. For instance, the pillbug breathes through structures called pleopodal lungs. These are essentially modified gill-like organs located on their underside. For these organs to function, they must remain moist. This is why they congregate in damp, dark spaces. It is not a mere preference or a coincidence. It is a matter of survival. In a biological sense, they are still partly aquatic. They are still tethered to moisture the same way their ocean ancestors were tethered to the sea. But this aquatic heritage gave them something extraordinary in return. Pillbugs are detritivores. They feed on the things we often consider waste, decomposing organic matter, dead leaves, rotting wood, and fungi. In doing this, they perform one of the most essential yet invisible functions in any garden ecosystem. They break down complex organic material into simpler forms that soil bacteria and fungi can then process further. They are the engine of the decomposition cycle, accelerating the release of nutrients that your plants desperately need to grow. A garden with a healthy pillbug population decomposes its organic waste faster, recycles nutrients more efficiently, and maintains a far superior soil structure than a garden without them. This alone should make them worth protecting. But as it turns out, this is not even the most remarkable thing they do. The most extraordinary aspect of the pillbug, the one that has captivated scientists for the past 2 decades, is what happens when these creatures encounter heavy metals in the soil. Think about urban and suburban soils. Over decades, they have accumulated lead, cadmium, copper, zinc, and arsenic from industrial activity, vehicle exhaust, old lead-based paints, and contaminated groundwater. These toxic metals do not simply break down, they do not vanish. They accumulate in the soil, seep into plant tissue, and move up the food chain into the vegetables you grow, and eventually into your own body. But when a pillbug eats contaminated soil material, something miraculous happens inside its body. Research published in the journal Cell Biology International identified specialized cells in the pillbug's midgut, called S cells. These cells actively absorb heavy metal ions from the digested material and sequester them, they lock them away, into mineralized spheres. The metals are not processed and released. They are not excreted back into the environment. They are trapped inside the pillbug's body, permanently removed from the soil ecosystem, stored in a form that cannot re-enter the food chain. The pillbug does not just live in your soil, it filters it. By every scientific measure, it is one of the most effective biological heavy metal remediation agents ever identified. They are operating continuously, for free, in the exact locations where contamination is most likely to accumulate. Studies across Europe have found that pillbug populations in contaminated urban soils contain measurably higher concentrations of lead and cadmium than the surrounding soil. This means these animals are actively drawing toxins out of your environment and concentrating them within themselves. When these animals eventually die and are consumed by other decomposers, the metals are passed further up the food chain in a contained mineralized form, making them significantly less bioavailable than the free ionic metals in contaminated soil. Your pillbugs are running a sophisticated detoxification program in your garden, and most people are simply stepping on them. There is one more dimension to the pillbug's biology that deserves our attention, and it is the one that gave them their most famous name. The defensive curl, the act of rolling into a ball, is not simply a behavioral response to fear. It is a masterpiece of structural engineering. The pillbug's exoskeleton consists of overlapping armor plates that give it a segmented, almost mechanical appearance. These plates are designed to interlock with mathematical precision the moment the animal curls. The result is a perfect sphere with no exposed soft tissue and no vulnerable entry points. This structure distributes external pressure across the entire surface rather than concentrating it at any single point. This is so effective that engineers at several universities have studied the pillbug's rolling mechanism as a model for designing flexible, impact-resistant structures. We are talking about the kind of engineering used in advanced robotics, high-end protective equipment, and even aerospace components. The animal that people dismiss as dirt possesses a body architecture sophisticated enough to inspire the cutting edge of aerospace research. This is who is living under your garden pots. Not a pest, not a problem. A land crustacean with a 300 million year evolutionary history. A gill-based respiratory system adapted for the soil. A digestive process that accelerates the very foundation of plant life. a heavy metal sequestration system that protects your food and your family, and a structural defense mechanism that inspires modern engineering. The most practical thing you can understand about pillbugs is this: they thrive where the conditions are right, and their presence tells you a fundamental truth about your garden. They need moisture, organic matter, and darkness. These are the exact same conditions that support healthy decomposer communities, thriving earthworm populations, and the complex fungal networks that feed your plants. A garden with hundreds of pillbugs under its stones is a garden with living, active, and biologically rich soil. A garden without them is often a garden that has been over-treated, over-dried, or stripped of the organic matter it needs to function. If you want to support them, the approach is simple. Leave some organic matter on the soil surface, leaf litter, wood chip mulch, or the remains of last season's plants. Keep your moisture consistent, and most importantly, stop using broad-spectrum pesticides that kill indiscriminately. The next time you lift a pot and find them there, put the pot back gently. They were doing something important in the dark, and they will go back to doing it the moment the light is gone. The next time someone in your household reaches for a shoe near the garden, tell them what they are about to step on. Not a pest, not a problem. A crustacean that has been cleaning your soil, filtering your toxins, and building the foundation of your garden's health. Quietly, continuously, and completely without asking for anything in return. Have you ever found hundreds of them under a pot or stone and wondered what they were doing there? Tell me about it in the comments below. I read every single one, and this community has some of the best garden stories I have ever heard. And if you want to understand another creature that is doing invisible, essential work in your garden right now, one that most people have never thought to look for, the next video is already waiting for you.